Good evening, people, and welcome back to Cruising on Crypto. I am Craig. So we're going to talk tonight about Velodrome. Just, if you didn't see my last episode, it explains why the channel went dark for 10 months. Long and short, wasn't bullish on the market. Decided, since I don't do this for a job, this is kind of like for fun on the side. I just didn't want to come on every day and talk negatively about how the market has a lot of pain ahead of itself. And that was back in January when I made my last episode. I'm feeling like we're not out of the bear market yet. Of course, we still probably have a few months left of possible pain. But at this point, we're getting pretty close to the bottom. And it might not be a terrible idea, which is what I'm doing. I'm not telling you what to do, but to start yield farming in a more aggressive way, stacking coins. As long as you feel you're stacking coins faster, then the potential loss in coin value is going to happen between now and what will eventually be the bottom of this crypto winter or crypto bottom. So the one I've been using is Velodrome, which is on the Optimism Chain. But I want to preface it by saying that any of these yield farming plays where you're getting kind of, what feels like unusually high rates of return, with a high rate of return comes higher risk. And you have to be willing to put up with the potential of downside. And like you've heard a million times, don't put anything in crypto, especially in an aggressive crypto or aggressive yield farming play that isn't money you can't afford to lose, okay? Do your own research. I'm just telling you what I've been doing recently. I've been kind of falling in love with this Velodrome project, so I thought it was worth making an episode about it. But before I did, I wanted to make the episode yesterday where I explained why I all of a sudden haven't made a video in 10 months. So if you want to know why, go back and check that out. So do your own research. This can be considered very risky, and do not put everything life savings on something like this, because as you're going to see in a second when I go through this, the rates of return are quite high. Relatively in a bear market, all the rates of return for everything have come down, but quite decent. And because of that, you're taking a more than normal amount of risk. If you want to be super safe, just buy Bitcoin and put it in a cold wallet, call it a day. But if you want to yield farm and have your coins making you money, you have to take a little bit more risk. So keep that in mind. Again, you are in control of your own investments. Don't listen to any YouTuber and say, well, they're doing it, so I got to do it. They're doing it. Oh, but he must be telling me I should do it. I'm not telling you what to do because I have a very high risk tolerance. You might be risk averse, right? So then stick to the blue chips like Bitcoin, just put it in a cold storage wallet and let it grow over time. In the long run, it'll probably pay off in spades. But between now and then, you're not going to gain any more coins. I like to have my coins gaining more coins as I'm waiting for this bear market to end. Okay, first of all, I want to explain too that, I should mention, I'm not paid by Velodrome. I'm not getting anything for this. This is not a sponsored video. I didn't even talk to the devs about making this video, so they haven't told me anything to say or any of that stuff. Although I have watched a lot of Twitter spaces and AMAs where the devs are on there. The lead dev is Alex Cutler, and probably the other dev that's on the most of these is a guy named Tao. Their faces are shown on a lot of these Twitter spaces, which I like because a lot of DeFi plays, if you are in the space, would know. A lot of devs try to hide behind screen names and anonymity, and they never show their face. You don't know who they are. You don't even know what country they're from. A lot of times they won't come out of the shadows, and that's always been a bit of a red flag for me. And I really appreciate that Alex, Tao, and some of the other devs from Velodrome have been so transparent, so easily questioned about what their future plans are and all that, and all these like AMAs and Twitter spaces and all that. If you follow Velodrome, you'll go on their Twitter, you'll see, just follow their whole threads. They are very transparent. It's probably feels like 4 or 5 tweets a day about what's going on now and in the future. So very transparent. I like that. Velodrome is on the Optimism chain. So Optimism is a layer 2. Similar to, if you've heard of Polygon or the Matic coin, that's a layer 2 of Ethereum. There's Arbitrum, which is a layer 2, and there's Optimism. There's probably more. There's a few more in there too that are layer 2s. Very quickly, because that's not what this video is about. A layer 2 is, in essence, using Ethereum as the backbone. Everybody believes that Ethereum is one of the safest. It's a layer 1, similar to how Binance is its own layer, Avalanche is its own layer, Cardano is its own layer. Ethereum is, in my opinion, the backbone. It's got the most dApps and things attached to it. Now, I was never a proponent of using Ethereum for DeFi and yield farming because the gas fees were astronomical. I mean, during high congestion days, you could see $50, $60 gas fees. So imagine you're yield farming and you've got $200 worth of rewards waiting in the rewards page, and you want to get it out and you get hit with a $50 gas fee. It's just not doable, right? Unless you're a whale that's throwing around hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, then paying a $50 gas fee probably isn't a big deal to you. But for you and me, the more small-time yield farmer, yeah, you can't do that. That's why I always did all my yield farming on things like Phantom, which has very low gas fees. Avalanche is pretty low. Binance, kind of low, but not super low. There's a bunch of them. Then I found out about Optimism. Arbitrum's another one like that. And what they do is a layer two. As a layer two, what they do is they batch all the transactions together and only write them to the Ethereum chain once they've gathered a certain number of transactions together. So they pay the one gas fee to update Ethereum with maybe 1,000 transactions in that one batch. Therefore, they split the $20 or $30 gas fee by all the transactions. So it works out to regularly, I'm seeing anything between 6 cents per transaction. And on a really high congestion day when the gas fees are high on Ethereum, I assume there's a relationship there, I might see a 30 or 40 cent gas fee. Still miles better than being on the Ethereum chain. So that's what these layer twos will do for you. It allows you to have the safety and the ecosystem of Ethereum, but you're doing all your transactions on a side chain that only updates Ethereum once in a while. So that's the Coles Notes of it. Again, there's more than one layer two. I'm not saying Optimism is by far the best. It's just the one that Velodrome is on. They're only on Optimism. So there you go. And Optimism is one where you can use MetaMask in the normal wallets. I know with Solana and some of the other ones, you need a special wallet to get onto that chain. You don't need that with Optimism. It'll work perfectly fine on your MetaMask and normal wallets. All right, so let's go. This is the Velodrome website. It's velodromefinance.app. If you're ever not sure, believe me, I've learned this lesson the hard way. Don't Google what a site should be. You go to CoinMarketCap or CoinGecko, put in the coin you want, in this case, Velo. It'll show you the details of Velodrome. And in there will be a link to the actual website. Believe me, you can be phished if you go to the wrong website and lose a boatload of money. So this is the thing. If you click this launch app here, you're going to be brought to the normal Velodrome, website. So we're going to go through quickly just the tags at the top. Let me zoom in a bit here. And so you got, can you see that? Yeah. You see swap. So swap is pretty much ABC. You want to swap from one coin to another. This is where you go. Now, what does Velodrome do that is preferential to a lot of other swap sites? It has the lowest or one of the lowest fees. They say one of the least amounts of fees for transacting between two coins. Okay, the one way you can figure out whether Velodrome is really one of the low fee providers is go to something like Firebird, which is a swap aggregator. It's supposed to find you the most efficient way to go from one coin to another, and it uses multiple swap sites to go, okay, which is the less slippage, which has the lowest fees. Sometimes it's not only fees that gives you the best fill. It might be that one swap site has a lot more liquidity, therefore less slippage. So you'll find out. You change the coins in here, you're going to get different options. If I go from, so as you can see, OP to ETH is going through Beethoven, then 100% through Velodrome, and then coming out on the other side as ETH. If I want to use two different coins, let's say I go, well, of course, if I go Velo to USDC or OP to USDC, it's using Uniswap and Beethoven. If I go Velo, if I go USDC to Velodrome, of course, it goes through Beethoven again. Tonight seems to be a Beethoven night. I don't usually see that one. And then into Velodrome 100% and in there. So if you see Velodrome in the link from one coin to another, that usually means it's because it's the lowest fee or the lowest slippage way to get from A to B. Not on every coin. Obviously, Velodrome's relatively new. It's only been around since June. So they don't have as a massive quantity of liquidity pools where every coin's always going to go through Velodrome. But generally what I find is if it's a coin you're going to get as a reward coin or as a bribe coin, and we'll get into all that in a second, on Velodrome, a lot of times when you try and swap it back to Velo or back to USDC or something else, and you use a Firebird, you often find it's using Velodrome anyway. So you could just skip the step, especially if it's 100% Velodrome, and do it right here on Velo, because that's what Firebird is in essence doing. It's putting it through here. Next thing is the pools page. So the pools page is what we've talked about many, many times in the previous episodes. Is regular, everyday ABC yield farming. This is where you have a liquidity pool and you combine two coins together to get this rate of return. Now on this page, you can go buy my staked, but of course I got a wallet with nothing in it right now showing. And then you go total pool if you want to be in the biggest ones. Generally, the biggest ones are the ones that are mostly stable coins. So the rates of return are not, nosebleed high. If you want to go to the highest APR, then you're going to be in the more speculative coins, and they're paying APR of 300, 200, 300%. Keep in mind when you go, I use this as the example in the last episode, 235% APR is actually 895% APY. So don't get APR and APY confused. Really quickly, APR means that you're going to put it in and you're going to constantly get a reward out, but you're not going to do anything with the reward. It's just going to get sent to a wallet. You're not reinvesting it. If you reinvested it, your rewards, and in this example, I'm using weekly, as you can see, you got daily would be a little bit more, but that means you got to take your rewards and bring them back in and reinvest them every day. I'm thinking more realistically, people like to reinvest their rewards once a week. So 235% APR is actually 895% APY when you compound weekly. Just thought I'd let you know that, because I think a lot of times people get fooled by other sites. A lot of them, Beefy and other ones, they quote APY and then the number looks huge. Like if you've got a coin and somebody says, I'm going to pay you 895% APY, and you go to another site and it says, I'm going to pay you 235% APR. If you didn't know the difference, you'd be like, well, the 800 is definitely better than the 235, right? So just keep that in mind. There is a difference between those two terminologies. So the pools page is where you would pick if you wanted to be the old school. I want to create a liquidity pool. I'm not presently doing that because I feel confident about Velo's future, but a lot of these other coins that are not, that are not paying more than what I can get by locking in my Velo, I have to then have the risk of, I have two different projects. I'm not picking on any of them. If I'm in HIND USDC or WETH LUSD or any of these ones, I have to, if they're two separate growth coins, I have to worry about, are both coins going to do well? If it's a growth coin with a stable coin, you've gotten permanent loss, because if the growth coin does do what you want it to do and shoots to the moon, stable coin stays where it is, you're getting permanent loss, which means it sells some of your higher value coins that just went up to get you more of the lesser value coin that stayed still. So that's what impermanent loss is. So with a liquidity pool, you have multiple coin risks. You in essence have Velodrome risk because you are yield farming on Velodrome, and if it got hacked for most of its money, it would close down, you'd lose your money. If you're in one of these liquidity pool tokens, now you got to worry about that project. Is that project going to survive? Is that coin going to collapse? So you've got multiple layers of risk there. So it is an option though, if that's the kind of thing, because we're going to be talking about locking, and some people are just going to go, what? You want me to lock my coins up? You don't have to. If you want to yield farm the old fashioned way, there is an option under pools here. Vest is where you will lock your Velo coins. We'll get to that in a second, but that just going in order of the tags at the top. Vest is where you do it. And the way you do it is you go in here and create it. There would be a balance if you had a real wallet attached of how many Velo you have here. You decide how much of it or all of it. And then you pick whether you want to be locked for 1 week, 1 month, 1 year, 4 years. As you can see, hopefully you can see, maybe I'll try and zoom in. No, that is zoomed in. Oh, that's really zoomed in. Okay, there we go. 4 years gets you 1-to-1. So if you have, let's use 10,000 Velo, because you need 10,000 to get the airdrop, which we'll talk about later. If you have 10,000 Velo and you lock it, you're going to get approximately 10,000 VeVELO if you lock for 4 years. If you do for 3 years, only going to get 75% of it. If you lock for 2 years, you're only going to get 50% of it. If you lock for 1 year, you're going to get 25% of it. So if you needed 10,000 VeVELO to get the airdrop, and you only wanted to lock for 1 year, you'd have to lock 40,000 or more, a little bit more, VeVELO or Velo to get 10,000 VeVELO to qualify for the airdrop. And we'll talk about the airdrop in a second. So what I'm doing, not telling you what you should do, I'm locking for the full 4 years. I want the most voting power for the least amount of dollars locked up, invested. For me to have the same amount of voting power, if I did a year, I'd have to invest 4 times as much money into Velo to get the same voting power as locking for 4 years. We'll talk about locking more in a second. Anyways, let's go on to the next tag. The next tag is the vote. Now, this is Thursday. The snapshot for the last vote, it's always Wednesday at midnight or 11:59 UTC. We just passed that. We're now Thursday. So as you can see, if I sort this by bribes, the maximum bribe is 11,909. Yesterday, before the snapshot, it was 20,000 something. That's because as soon as the snapshot happens, all the bribes are paid out and the whole thing starts over again for the next week. Some projects bribe right away, so there's some money in here. Some wait till Tuesday, a day before the snapshot to actually put their dollars in. But we talked about locking. If you lock for 4 years, you'd have whatever number of velos worth of voting power. You would vote in here and you would pick which one you want by using these sliders. Now, again, my wallet doesn't have any velo in it, so I can't do it. But you would pick what percent on a sliding scale of 100% you want to put into this. And just to show you, I actually took a screen grab of yesterday, right before the snapshot. Let me see if I can bring that over here. So this is the last night before the snapshot, best voting APRs sorted down. So 219%, 217%. These are APRs again, not APY. So this is what you're going to get. These projects. Now, I didn't take a screen grab of bribes from highest to lowest. I did APR from highest to lowest. But this is what goes to show you what kind of rate of return you're generally going to get. And that's what I've found for weeks and weeks that I've been doing this. If you pick and choose where you're going to vote, you can get your average vote to be over 200% APR. Now, I say pick and choose because if you have above a certain amount of Velo vote, you can see some of these are pretty small, 3 million total votes. So if you had, I don't know, 500,000 VeVELO, and you voted in here, you're going to bring this vote up by 500,000, which means this APR is going to go down because the same $1,700 is going to be split by everybody who votes on it. So yeah, if you're a larger player, you can't just slam it all into one of these things because you'll move the APR too far down to be no longer a good option. So you tend to have to split up your votes in multiple things. Unfortunately, there's a screen grab. In the real one, let me just go back to the real page here. If you go by total votes, you can see that the number one voter was Velo USDC at 43 million votes and down. And like I said, bribes, you can sort by dollar value bribe. Actually, it's the same thing. Bribes in terms of coins and bribes in terms of dollar values are going to be in the same order. Now, that's something to keep in mind here too, that here's the bribe coins for various, let me just zoom out, that's too much. Here's the bribe coins for the various options. So when you vote for this, you're going to get these coins split up based on what percent of the vote you have. So using USDC, SUSD, you're going to get a share of the USDC, a share of SUSD, and a share of the OP coin. That is going to show up in the rewards page right after the snapshot, and I'll show you that in a second. But that's another factor you have to keep in mind. When you're voting for something, you have to decide, do I want those coins? Because you're going to get them. And there is a difference. There are some projects that the coins they're offering you are their own little trinket coin that is hard to swap without massive slippage. And I'm not trying to pick on anybody. I don't even know if they're here right now in terms of bribes. I don't know if they put any bribes in. But there was one OpenX that tends to be right at the top of the APR every week, and I voted for them. And then you get the OpenX coin as one of the rewards coins. And when you try and swap it, the slippage is insane, like 5%, 6% slippage, even though you don't have tons of it and you're just trying to move it to USDC or something else, massive slippage. Now, if you're OpenX, all you need to do is create your liquidity pool with more liquidity. So there's more coins on both sides. So the slippage goes down, but that is definitely a problem. So you start to learn about looking at what coin you're going to get and deciding, like OP, that's the Optimism coin, lots of liquidity. USDC, SUSD, LUSD, SETH, WETH, they all have tons of liquidity, hardly any problems. It's going in the swap side, going in here, and swapping between the two. And if you do swap, it will tell you if there's a problem with the slippage. So as you can see, I just put an OpenX in the swap site. You don't even need to have the coins in your wallet to just say what if. 12,000 OpenX works out to be about $435 US, 8.26% slippage. Yeah, so OpenX, not trying to pick on you, but you got to definitely increase the liquidity pool. But that's what I mean. It's only for you to think, okay, when I'm in here voting, I got to remember which of these coins can I swap easily if that's not the coin you want to stay in without crazy amounts of slippage. So just a factor to keep in mind. So rewards page, again, I don't have a wallet connected here that actually has anything in it, so you're not going to see anything, but I did have a screen grab of a wallet that's not mine. Let me bring it over. So generally, this is what your rewards page looks like. It'll show you bribes you got, fees you got, and rebases. So let me just explain the difference between them. Bribes is when you vote for something, those coins I told you about that are there for the bribe. When you vote for them, right after midnight UTC on Wednesday, literally a minute later, it shows up in your rewards page as a bribe. Also, any fees. Sometimes I guess there's some money already ready for fees that'll show up right away. Your bribes won't get any bigger during the week, so you might as well just claim them right away. All these coins will go in your wallet. Fees will slowly grow as the week goes along. The reason is those liquidity pools with those coins in it, as they exchange between themselves, the fees generated go to the VeVELO holders. The lockers of Velo get that, not the liquidity pool providers. The liquidity pool providers from the pools page, that I said the old ABC of yield farming, they get the emissions from Velodrome in terms of Velo coin that they're paid to them. That's how their APR is calculated. It's an opposite system to most liquidity pools where the liquidity pool provider is the one that gets the fees. In this case, it's the VeVELO holders that get the fees. So hopefully that makes sense. And the last thing on the list that you'll see there is a rebase. So if you have Velo locked, it's called VeVELO. When you're in just locked every week, and there's a formula and it's in the Medium article. I don't exactly know how it's worked out, but you actually get Velo gifted to you or rebased to you every week, and it'll say claim and lock. So there's a difference here. It's Velo. It says it's Velo, but it's actually VeVELO, because when you claim it, it will claim and lock it as more VeVELO in your vest page. So going back to the vest page, it would show up here. So like I told you, you would lock it here. You'd say how much Velo and all that stuff. When you do, oh, sorry, I can't lock it when I don't have anything there. When you do, it'll show up down here. It'll say your NFT number because it becomes an NFT. It'll say how many Velo you have, and your vest value is how many VeVELO you have and when it expires. If you pick 4 years, it'll be a date 4 years from now. Small caveat on something you should know is that as you go along, and maybe that's why the rebase is there to give you more Velo, as you go along towards your 4 years expiring, your Velo always stays the same. Well, actually it goes up with if you collect the rebases, but let's just say for argument's sake, it stays the same. Your VeVELO, your voting power, actually slowly erodes away. Unless you go back into the create lock page and click the 4 years and re-up for another 4 years, then you gain back all of your voting power that you had based on your total number of Velo. Hopefully that makes sense. So if you have 1 million Velo and it says you have 900,000 VeVELO, you can go in here, re-up for the full 4 years, and you get your full 1 million VeVELO to match your Velo. Plus, like I said on that rewards page, the rebase every week is going to give you more VeVELO, even without you having to spend any more money. So there you go. So that's pretty much the tabs at the top of the page. The only one that I didn't talk about is bribes, and this is pretty much only used by the projects who want to create bribes. There's no reason an individual would ever create a bribe that I can think of, but it's permissionless bribing. So any project can go in here and pick what liquidity pool they want to bribe and put it in here, and it comes out of their wallet and it shows up in this vote page in terms of how many coins they want to bribe. So that is the overall, just the way the page is laid out, what each tab generally means. Now I'm going to go into some of the features of Velodrome as it stands right now. And it's funny, I was making this video, and just before I made the video, Velodrome came out with a Medium article that they're slightly changing the rules to kind of promote more projects getting on board than individuals. I think that's something for a different video because it's so new. Some of it I'm not thrilled with. Some of it I understand the reasoning, but I don't want to take up time with that right now. Let me just talk about what you're going to get by being in Velodrome if you're going to do the locking side of things. So first of all, you're going to get an airdrop for new Velo locked. Any Velo you lock in the week that you lock it, you qualify for an airdrop. as it stands now, and you can go to this DUNE page. There's a DUNE page. If you search Velodrome in DUNE, you can find one called Velodrome OP Airdrop, and it'll show you this, and you can update it. It updates every 4 hours on its own, but if you change this 60,000 that shows up right here to 5999.8, some weird number, it'll force a reboot of the latest numbers. But anyways, as you can see, if I refresh it now, let's see if the number changes at all. There's 2 million, and this is only Thursday, like I said, there's 2,155,000 VeVELO that have been locked this week. There's a total of 60,000 OP that's up for grabs for the airdrop. So when you split it out, you're making about $1 for every dollar you invest. Clearly, because there's almost an entire week left to go, the number of Velo locked will go up. As you can see here, this is the number of Velo that has been locked every week. 2 weeks ago, 15 million Velo came in, 10 million the week before that, 12 million before that, 9 million before that. The week that just went by was actually a low week of 9.8 million. So this little blue line shows you your airdrop. They call it rebase or rebate, but it's the airdrop. So last week that just went by was a 24.5% airdrop. A low was 2 weeks ago of 14. Before that 22, before that 21.7, before that 25, before that 24. So I would say if you want to be conservative, the way it has been, you're going to average about 20%, maybe a little bit more in terms of every new Velo you lock, you get an airdrop. So that's kind of bonus number one. So right as you come into this project and lock some Velo, you're already getting some of your money back instantly. And you get the airdrop the day after the snapshot. So you put this in, the Wednesday at midnight is the snapshot. All your rebases and fees show up and your bribes show up right away. The airdrop is 1 day later. So it's usually on Thursday. They say they have up to 48 hours to airdrop you the airdrop. So there you go. That's benefit number one. Benefit number two, of course, is the bribe you're going to receive. So you're going to receive, and I mean, it's hard to say for sure if this is going to stay like this, but you're going to receive about, let's say about 190 to 200% kind of is what I would consider as my conservative estimate. APR, bribes and fees. Now, remember that's annualized. So that's if you got the same or bribe every week for 52 weeks, not just this week, then it would work out to be 200% APR. But of course, it could change. Like if you're not going to vote for something and you're going to vote all the time. You're going to vote every week in all likelihood. Now, something to remember about voting is if you forget to vote, it's going to vote for whatever you voted for last week. So I guess it's good that it's not like if you, I don't know, were in the hospital or in a coma that you're not going to get any airdrops or bribes or any of that stuff. Whatever you voted for the last time, it'll just default to the same vote this time. So if you put 50% in one, 30% in another, and 20% in another, it'll be the same 50, 30, 20 split next week and the week after that and the week after that. But realistically, because the bribes change, the APRs change. So what might be the best option this week is very rarely the best option next week. There's always new projects coming on board. And when they do, they want to splash around. They want to get some votes coming their way. So they bring in a bunch of money to bribe and therefore, they become the best option. Now, like I said, touched on quickly, there is a Medium article that Velodrome just put out tonight. Again, I didn't want to spend too much time on this, but they are slightly changing things to benefit the projects and kind of de-incentivize individuals a little bit. One thing is they're going from 60,000 OP down to 50,000 OP for the airdrop. But they're going to give projects that have more than 100,000. Let me see if I can zoom that in. Zooming that in a bit. Over 100,000 projects are going to get an extra 10% on their airdrop. And it's 10% across the board. And they're also going to do bribe matching. They've always done bribe matching in the past. But they've now said they're going to structure it differently. The bribe matching will be based on how many VeVELO each project has. And this is only for projects. It doesn't matter if you're an individual that has over 1 million VeVELO, you're not going to get some sort of weird 65% benefit. Now, I did talk to the devs in the Discord about that. Why are projects being treated differently than individuals? Their thing is when they got the OP grant, their whole thing is bringing projects onto the OP ecosystem. So from that standpoint, they need to motivate projects to come on board. Therefore, their bribe matching and the extra airdrops and stuff is what it is. Now, bribe matching, if you're going to add more money on top of what a project gives in bribes, of course, that's going to filter down to the VeVELO holders anyway. So that's a good thing, right? It's going to come back to the VeVELO holders. So the individual who has VeVELO, which is locked VELO, are going to benefit as well. The only thing I didn't love is this part down here about vote boosting. Again, incentivizing projects. If you're a project with over 2 million VeVELO, you'll qualify for up to 2 million voting extra votes. So if you had 2 million and they give you an extra 2 million, you now have 4 million votes to vote for your own project and get your own bribes back again. So you're, in essence, like it says here, essentially doubling your APR for 2 weeks after you qualify with the 2 million. There's also, for any project that bribes over $4,000, you're going to get a 1 to 2 million voting boost. Now, again, when I was planning to make this video yesterday, none of these caveats were here. It was everybody was treated the same. So am I loving that projects are getting extra votes and extra airdrops? Part of me is like, I don't mind, because the more projects come on board, the more bribes there is, the more money for the VeVELO holders, which is me and you if you're in it. The thing I don't like is if I'm voting with my X number of VeVELO holders, and I know the project next to me has the same number of VeVELO, but they're getting double the votes and double the APR. I'm like, what? Why am I being penalized, right? So, this is just my personal opinion. I feel they've gone a little bit too, like, promoting a little too hard with the projects, and kind of by default, penalizing, I don't know if that's the right word, the individuals who have put just as much money into VeVELO, but are not getting all these extra boosts. So it is what it is. There is a Medium article that just was put out today about it. I get it that they're trying to get more projects on board and they don't need to incentivize individuals to do it. That doesn't help get them another grant in the future from OP. But on the other hand, I don't like my votes being less valuable or less of them because I'm not a project. So put in the comments if you're a VELO holder, whether you love this new change or if you feel like, I'm an individual, I feel like I'm being de-incentivized from, becoming well. I think they should have gamified it. There should be some incentive, even for individuals, that if you get to this level, I mean, it should be something that's hard to attain. It shouldn't be like everybody gets this bonus. But if you get to this level, you're going to get an extra 5% APR on your whatever, bribes, airdrop, whatever, some incentive. And if you get to the next level, we're going to give you 10%. And if you get to the next level, and they should be hard to get to, you're going to get 15% extra, something, right? Gamify it so that if you're just below that threshold, you're incentivized to get to the next one. You're like, oh, if I could just get there, I'm getting an extra 5%. Right now it's like, nope, individuals, we all get the same percent. If you vote with 10,000 VELO and I vote with 1 million VELO, you and I are getting the exact same percent. And to me, it feels like, well, wouldn't it incentivize me if you said I got to get to 1.5 million VELO to get there so I can get a perk? No perk for the individual. So again, not loving the change, but I sort of see why the devs did what they did. So that's it. So again, there's so much to go over here in Velodrome. It is a very kind of convoluted way of yield farming. I've really loved doing it. I like the weekly vote. This is the main thing I love. I love that every week I vote for a different project or 2 or 3, and I'm only committed to that for 1 week. Right? I don't care if that project eventually collapses to 0. It doesn't bother me. I own VELO, and in essence, VeVELO. And that's all I have to care about. Is Velodrome healthy? Yes. Well, then all these coins that are throwing money at us in bribes to vote for them, I'm more than happy to vote for them, even if I know nothing about the project, because I'm really just voting for them to get emissions. It doesn't mean I have to own those coins. Now, granted, I will get some of their coins as part of the bribe, but I can insta swap it to something I want, maybe more VELO, and then reinvest it and get even more VeVELO and more voting power for the following week. So that is how I like to feel about it. Now, one thing somebody has said to me, and I like how Tao, one of the developers, said this in an AMA. They're like, 4 years to lock your coins up for 4 years. In crypto, that's like 40 years. I mean, things move so fast here that 4 years is like an infinite amount of time. He had a good point. Consider it an annuity where you're never going to unlock it. You're just going to keep re-upping it for 4 years, and it's going to be constantly an annuity that pays you a weekly stipend or a weekly return in cash. Think of it that way. I've even used another analogy for somebody in my Telegram group, saying, consider it a business. I mean, we get so hung up in crypto about, I got to have access to my coins at all times because you never know, I might need to sell it tomorrow. I said, consider it your cash flow business. So if you own a factory that makes widgets, you're going to invest X number of dollars into building the factory. You don't go, well, 2 days from now, I might decide I don't want this factory and I'm going to want to sell it or sell the machinery inside it. No, you're going to say, okay, I've done my business plan and I know if I build this factory, there's enough demand for widgets that I'm going to make a rate of return of whatever, 30% a year, 40% a year on my investment in the factory. You're not going to say 6 months from now, 3 months from now, maybe I want to scrap the whole thing, unless, of course, the business is losing money. You're just going to keep running that factory for decades. You might even hand that factory off to your kids, and they're going to keep running it. So think of it as an annuity or as a business that it's a cash flow. With the rates of return you're getting, like I've shown you, 200 plus the airdrop, I'm thinking you can probably say 220% APR is what? 1,000, 1,100% APY? Yeah. So, don't worry about it. The amount of rewards you're going to get will more than pay for what you've invested in the VeVELO. It'll pay back you 10, 11-fold, as I said, from 1,100% APY. Another thing, there is an opportunity that if, some catastrophe happened in your family and you needed to sell your VeVELO, it is an NFT. So you can go onto a site like Quixotic or something like that where you can buy and sell NFTs, and you can list it as, I have this NFT, it's got this many VeVELO in it, blah, 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 who wants to buy it, and do it that way. I talked to the devs in Discord on that topic, and they said there was some intention to build their own in-house NFT swap site, so you could go on there and list your VeVELO NFT or VeVELO NFT, and it would, because it would be in-house, it would know exactly how much VeVELO you have, what the dollar value is worth, and all of that. So it'll be easy to see what the fair market value is. If you go on DBank and you look at your wallet when you have VeVELO, it does show you the value of it in terms of how many VeVELO it has, not how many VeVELO voting power. That's irrelevant. That's an NFT thing. It's that NFT owns, using $1 million. Let's say you have a million VeVELO. Let's say you have 1 million VeVELO in this NFT. Now the VeVELO, the voting power, might be 900,000, but that's not what DBank sees. It sees that NFT has 1 million VeVELO in it at today's price, and therefore it's worth X. So you get on your DBank, if that makes you sleep better at night, you get the actual value of the VeVELO. So if you ever did need to sell it, you would sell it as an NFT to someone else who wants that VeVELO. So there you go. It's not like you can never get out of it. It's just that if you were in a rush to get out of it, you might need to sell that NFT at a slight discount to the value of the VeVELO, because the person buying it's like, well, why wouldn't I just buy VeVELO and lock it myself? I want some incentive to buy your NFT from you instead of just doing it myself. So you give them a discount. Now, then again, in the future, in a bull market, VeVELO might be so rare because they are slowly bringing down the emissions of VeVELO. So VeVELO will be more and more scarce. And this is something I hadn't touched on. Last update, 74% of all VeVELO ever emitted is locked. And it's locked for an average time frame of 3.7 years, which means almost everybody that's locking their VeVELO is locking it for the entire 4 years, because they're telling themselves what I'm telling you now. If you want the full voting power and therefore the highest APR you can get for the amount of money you've invested, you want to lock for the full 4 years. And I'm even finding that every week to 2 weeks when I go and put more VeVELO in, I'm going back to that tab about relocking for the full 4 years and getting all my VeVELO that I could possibly get. So there you go. It's been working well for me. Again, stacking coins in this kind of tail end of this bear market is what I think is, for me, the best thing to do, because I figure I can stack coins faster than my potential downside risk of how much further is the market going to fall, right? So if you think the market has another 20% down, but you're stacking coins at a rate of APY, you know, compounding every week of 1,100%, do the math. The downside is far smaller than your upside potential of stacking new coins. So there you go. Whew. It's a big topic. I probably missed some things. Put some stuff in the comments if you have questions. That's pretty much Velodrome in a nutshell. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If so, show the channel some love by giving it a like. Subscribe if you haven't already. And until next time, this is Craig signing off, wishing you happiness, health, and wealth in that order. Ciao for now.